like to call this January 23rd, 2025 Board of Education regular meeting to order. George, can you take the roll?
Scott, are you ready? No. Mrs. Bissell?
Here.
Mrs. Kilbane?
Here.
Mr. Miko?
Here.
Ms. Stochek, she's on her way, and Mrs. Hausum.
Here. We all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point in the meeting, we are going to enter into executive session for the reasons of,
To consider the employment of a public employee.
thank you. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Bissell, second by Mrs. Kilbane.
Take a vote.
Can you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Ms. Kilbane?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Ms. Stochek is not present at vote.
She's right behind you.
You want to? Ms. Stochek?
Yes.
All right. All right, we will return to public session at approximately 7 PM. Resume public session at 7:17 PM. Thank you guys for being patient with us. Next on our agenda is our strategic priorities. Our district has developed and is currently engaged in a 3-year strategic plan which reflects the values, beliefs, and hopes of our students, staff, parents, and community. There are 4 strategic priorities to the plan: transforming teaching and learning, aligning staff and resources, cultivating culture and climate, and leveraging funding and facilities. Our strategic priorities give actionable focus to our district's purpose and mission and guide the work of our strategic plan. Next, we do have an agenda change tonight. The following change was made to the agenda: the removal of action item under Section L, Student Services, J. Burke, Ph.D., and Associates Perspectives Academy Agreement. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ryba for OSBA Student Achievement.
Thank you, Ms. Hausum, and I'm going to turn it back over to Sharon and Haley for their recognitions for the month.
This month, we are acknowledging Chapman Elementary School, and Mrs. Harrell is going to do the honors. And did you know that it is Mrs. Harrell's birthday today, and she is here celebrating her birthday with us? So happy birthday. You're welcome.
Good evening. I'm so excited to be here this evening to be able to recognize a fantastic student and a phenomenal staff member. We're going to start first. Come on up. This is 4th grade student Harrison, and I'm going to share a little bit about why we are recognizing Harrison for the extra mile. It is with great joy that we recognize Harrison, a remarkable 4th grade student who exemplifies what it means to be an engaged and an inspiring learner. Harrison is an active listener, always fully present in class, and his enthusiasm for learning is contagious. A role model, Harrison consistently follows directions and completes his work. He leads by example for his classmates with their expectations, and he sets a high standards for his peers. His kindness shines, though, as he offers support to those around him, making him a great friend to everybody in his classroom. One of the highlights each day is greeting Harrison in the morning and witnessing his joyful spirit. His infectious smile and delightful laugh light up the classroom. Harrison's perseverance is commendable. He tackles tasks head-on, even when they present challenges, showing resilience and determination. Watching Harrison use his AAC device to communicate and find the perfect response is truly inspiring. He demonstrates not only his ability to engage with others, but his commitment to being an active participant in his learning journey. Thank you, Harrison, for being such a wonderful example for your peers and for brightening our school community with your positivity and your leadership. Keep shining. Congratulations, Harrison. So if you don't know, fourth graders learn how to play the recorder, and Harrison has done an amazing job mastering the recorder with the help of Miss Puma. Come on up. So next, I have the honor of recognizing Mrs. Jillian Puma. It is with great admiration that we recognize Mrs. Puma, a dedicated special education aide and registered behavior technician at Chapman Elementary School. Jillian embodies the spirit of commitment and passion, giving 200% every day to ensure that her students thrive regardless of their abilities, gifts, or talents. Jillian takes immense pride in her work, going above and beyond to understand her students' unique needs. She tirelessly seeks out innovative ways to help them achieve their goals, all while being their biggest cheerleader. Her advocacy for inclusion is truly inspiring. She consistently creates pathways and opportunities for her students to engage with their peers and explore new experiences. One of the many things I admire about Jillian is her eagerness to support her students, such as picking up a spinning chair for a student who loves spinning during sensory break, finding it, coming in and showing me. She will look at Marketplace, go to stores, she'll go to the ends of this earth to find something that she knows will make the difference in a child's life. This small act is a testament to her dedication and the lengths that she goes to support her students. Chapman Elementary School is undoubtedly a better place because of the dedicated staff members we have, like Mrs. Puma. Thank you, Jillian, for your unwavering commitment and for making a significant impact in the lives of our students. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Sure, absolutely.
Congratulations.
All right, well, congratulations. Harrison, I have to share, I was cleaning out my son's closet and I found that fourth grade recorder in the book. My family might call me a hoarder, I call it sentimental. So I might go and make Tyler play that recorder for me. And Jillian, thank you. We've been friends for a long time and I truly appreciate, I know you've got a heart of gold and a passion for what you do, so we appreciate you. Thank you.
And are those your three boys? They look very excited to be here with you tonight.
Oh, how nice.
But
They
it says a
all
lot that they
came.
showed up for Mom. That's awesome.
That is nice.
You should get a picture with Mom.
They're like, All right, well, thank you, guys. This will be a great time if you've got homework to do. If you-
I thought they'd all want to stay.
I
With their
mean-
mom. They're like running.
All right, next on our agenda is public comment. We have one slip tonight, Bonnie Tennis. Bonnie, you know the drill. If you could state your name and your address.
So today, my name is Bonnie Tennis, 9407 Brushwood Lane. Today, I would like to talk about levies and the fees and the BPG. And I just want to read very quick, that was from the State of the Schools. And if you take a look at what's here, part of our story, part of the history of Strongsville is that we've had a challenging time raising funds necessary to meet the growing and demanding needs of our students. That's about the levies. And then another one is if you choose to go to ballet the third time, we spend over $100,000 in fees to the contrary. And so when it comes to levies, I mean, not only people looking at the values, but also at the things like the pay and benefits. So prior to 2013, there was a 100% retirement contribution. I'm just explaining to that. Contribution by district to teachers' retirement, and the VPG, which was the voluntary professional growth. There are other things, but today I would like to comment on VPG. As we know, the VPG was not eliminated. New VPGs are not being awarded anymore, but teachers are still getting paid for what they did years ago with raises. Some of them reach close to a $10,000 a year, a VPG, in VPG, and some of them still will. In terms of 2019 levy, which was about $360 per $200,000 home, it would take about 27 homes to cover just that one teacher's $10,000 VPG. VPG is supposed to be something that benefits students and the district. Here's an example how a student benefited in 2010. I found the article. Money issued derail plans for Strongsville sixth grade camping program. Several Strongsville places are from the article. Several Strongsville parents were working with the school district and camp officials to try to come up with a replacement for $22,000 in funds that were eliminated by the Strongsville Board of Education due to cuts. Strongsville resident, one of the parents working to save the program, said that in addition to the funding, one of the main obstacles they faced was from Voluntary Professional Growth Committee. The group is comprised of the 3 administration officials and 3 members from Strongsville Education Association, which represents the teachers. In a nutshell, the teachers are awarded points for extracurricular activities such as participating in the week-long camp program, she said. Teachers were instrumental in the camp program. There are 9 different camps activities for which the teachers can be awarded points, she said. Once a certain amount of points are obtained, the teachers can be paid a higher salary. It's not like we can fund pay raises and pay them on ongoing basis, she said. So that's end of the article. Forecasted VPG amount in 2011 was $468 and $300. That comes from the 5-year forecast, 2010, forecast. And it was $468,000. The trip was only $22,000. There was money for VPG, but not for students. And it looked like no teacher would volunteer to get paid a one-time stipend. In 2011, when the early retirement was offered, teachers retired with estimated 9,379,000 VPG. That comes from 5-year forecast from 2011. Sorry, don't count for the turning pages, I'm sorry. Just to explain in simple words how it worked, teachers spent 5 days at NOAA camp. Each day points were awarded, and after the camp, that year VPG amount was awarded, but not just once that year, but would be paid every year for as long as the teacher was employed in Strongsville District, and that amount was also subjected to the teacher's raises. As an example, if teacher would be awarded $4,000, and that $4,000 would be subjected to 2% increase every year, at the end of 30 years, that $4,000 a year amount would grow to over $7,000 a year. But what is very alarming that over those 30 years, teacher would be paid over $162,000 just for that 1 week work, which was worth only $4,000. What a benefit. Why can't a coach do the same thing? Coach only 1 season and get paid for the rest of his employment every year. VPG paid in 2001 was $385,000. That comes from the district performance audit. 2011, $468,000. 2020 was still $229,000. When you take that average, it's $358,000 multiplied by 4 years equals to $8.5 million. That is a lot of money just for one benefit that no other districts offer, just Strongsville. Don't have info for the other 32 because it started in 1969. During 2001 was 131 employees, 2006, 151 employees. These benefits should be eliminated a long time ago. It was established in 1969. It's time to stop paying for it. Teachers' union contract is going to be renewed next year. Please eliminate this benefit. use that 200,000 for students, that's where the money needs to be used. The School Board of Education and Administration is always concerned about the levy fees, but not about the VPG, which is actually more costly than the levy fees. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Ms. Hausum, if I may.
Yes.
Just to give clarity, thank you, Bonnie, for your comments, and she was accurate in what she shared. But just for everybody's knowledge, VPG, voluntary professional growth, was something that's been was in the contract for a long time. I'm ballparking, but at least 15 years ago, it was negotiated out of the contract. And so no teacher could earn it, but people that had earned it were grandfathered in. And George has all the figures that he shares, but over the years, it has gradually decreased as people retired. So yes, we do have people that still earn the VPG dollars. It was something that was negotiated out of the contract around 15-plus years ago. What Bonnie in her comments is advocating for is eliminating the grandfathering of people. Correct, Bonnie?
Yes.
Yeah, eliminating.
Because it's been a long time since.
It has been, yeah.
No other districts have anything like that, and children deserve that money. 22,000 was a limited.
Correct. So Bonnie, I'm going to keep going. I appreciate that. So yes, that's what she's advocating for. But just to be clear, it's been a benefit that was eliminated years ago. The Teachers Association worked hand in hand with the district, and a variety of benefits that the teachers used to have been changed with the times and have eliminated. There's no retirement incentive anymore. There's no pickup on the pickup anymore. There's no VPG anymore. Insurances has changed to probably be different than the market rate in terms of dental and vision. So yes, there were things 15, 20 years ago that were hidden raises. But those have been eliminated by good cooperation between the union and the board. But thank you for your comment, Bonnie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have
Mrs. Hausum,
Yes.
I believe there's another
Oh.
public comment.
Mr. Carbone, you know the drill.
Jim Carbone, 12462 Saddlebrook Lane, Strongsville, Ohio. I just want to say that I will be, for the 2025 year, the Strongsville City Council liaison with the school board, with the Strongsville City Schools, and to me it's an honor just to be a little bit a part of what you guys do and all the great things that come out of the Strongsville schools, from not only academically and athletically, but really it starts at home with our great families, our students, and our teachers and staff. So it's a pleasure to join you guys on your team this year. Anything you need from the city, we're a partner. And I could tell you, on the city side, we cannot be the city we aspire to be without great schools. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim. We appreciate that from the city council and from you personally. I know you dedicate a lot of hours to the city and the schools, personally and through the city council, so thank you. We appreciate it. Look forward to working with you this year again. All right, anybody else for public comment? If not, we are going to move on to the approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes to approve, our organizational meeting from January 9th and our work session meeting from January 9th. Motion to approve the minutes of the January 9th organizational meeting and work session meeting. All audio recordings will be a permanent part of the minutes and are available upon request through the treasurer's office. Video recordings shall be maintained based on the availability of the selected digital online platform. All right, next up, Mr. Agonastiu.
Thank you, Mrs. Hausum. I have a few items for your consideration tonight. The first being the monthly financial report for December of 2024, fiscal year 25. I'm going to go over the supplemental report that I usually do. If it loads. There we go. All right, so the first section, standard report that we've been using the last year and a half. Revenues are $694,000 higher than the previous year. Expenditures are about $2.4 million, $2.5 million higher than the previous year, and the cash balance is about $3.5 million higher than the previous year. How it's compared to the forecast? Revenues trending about $31,000 less, and expenditures are trending about $535,000 less of the forecast as well. So potential net impact in cash to the forecast about $500,000. And we're started the year about $51.3 million in cash, and we're projected to end the year at $47.6 million in cash. Looking at revenues, December of this year comparison to last year, we're about $121,000 higher, which is primarily due to state revenues. The state foundation, which is about, for December, we collected $833,000 compared to last year about $697,000. Overall, for the year, we're going to see a slight increase on state foundation based on an increase in the funding formula in the biennium budget for this year, and then also we're receiving a one-time payments this year for reimbursements for the science or reading training, that the stipends that the teachers are getting paid for based on a legislative order. Fiscal year to date, revenues are $694,000 higher. Part of that was the local tax collections in the fall, in August and September. Those were about $400,000 higher. Overall, state revenues are about $69,000 higher, and other revenues are about $200,000 higher, which was the fall collection of the TIF that was about $300,000 higher last year, less some other revenues that are down this year. Looking at expenditures. Expenditures for the month of December totaled $7.4 million, which is $682,000 higher to last December of $6.7 million. Looking fiscal year to date, expenditures are $2.5 million higher than last year. The biggest components are salary and benefits, which is $2.3 million, and purchase services, which is about $500,000. And then all other expenses are about $300,000 less. Primarily, we had a debt that expired last year, that the last payment was last December, so that's part of the other expenses being down. Overall expenses are about 5.8 higher this fiscal year through December in comparison to last year. How we're trending in the forecast. I say in comparison to the forecast, revenues is about $31,000 less. It's primarily interest income from what we forecasted. The last 2 months have been a little less. The Star Ohio interest rate has dropped from 5.5%, which was last year, a year ago, to about 4.1. So we're seeing a decline there. 4.5 is still a good interest rate to where it was in years past. But we're kind of, me and the assistant treasurer are looking at different strategies of looking to see how we can make that up this year about cash balances and different bank accounts to see if we could be more aggressive in that aspect with Star Ohio. And expenditures are trending about $500,000 less comparable. Again, it's in salaries and benefits. And as you'll see in the graph below, this is where majority of it's coming from. Certified regular salaries, it's about $166,000 less. Those are primarily the full-time subs that we budgeted. The full-time sub positions, we haven't been at 100% filled with those all year, so we're gathering savings there. When we hire one, I think Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong, we end up moving them into in a long-term position as a teacher leaves, so it's a continuous cycle. As we fill it, then it opens, and then same thing with our classified staff with custodial and transportation. So rather than me forecasting that these are going to be filled, I just kind of left them, the remaining months, just kind of open as what we've been seeing is we fill one, another, it's a continuous cycle.
Yeah.
So that could improve, that it could go the other way, so we'll continue to monitor that. So it's just been a lot of the savings that we're seeing to the forecast here is just due to open positions. And then the last thing I wanted to kind of point out, just going on to the regular monthly report, there's a slide in here, slide 14. It's been in here for years, but it's a monthly comparison of revenues and expenditures of December, or for each month it's here, but particularly for December, shows December of 22, comparison 23, 24, and then fiscal year to date. December and January are low points in cash flow, meaning our expenditures are pretty much consistent month to month. There's some months where we have a little bit of a spike based on certain one-time payments, but our expenditures are almost consistent month to month, where revenues, the largest portion is property taxes, and we receive our property taxes in July and August, and then we get a small advance in January, larger advance in February, and then the settlement in March. So 5 months and kind of draw down from there. So if you look at the fiscal year, we got the big settlement in August, spent down. So December and January are kind of our low points in cash. So what I want to highlight here is this first half is revenues, the second half is expenditures. Then if we look at this last bottom line is revenues over or under expenditures. If you look at fiscal year to date, 2025, so through December for revenues and expenditures, we have spent about 1.5 million more than we've brought in. So we're starting that that deficit spend essentially, and this is before the levy dropping off. The levy is going to drop off with this calendar year's collection. So I went back and looked just out of curiosity. It's the first time we've deficit spent in December since December of 2019. So just kind of more or less bring that to your attention. January, we'll probably deficit spend. The advance for January we received, it was 1.2 million. Last year it was about, I think 2.8 million, so it's about 1.7 million, $1.6 million less. Part of that is the levy dropping off, and then, but also part of, typically the county sends 90% of what they've collected the advance. This January they only sent 60%, and it was based on, they said the tax bills went out later than usual. So rather than pushing the advance date back, they kept the advance date the same and held on to a little bit more money. So the next advance is middle of February. That's usually a bigger one. We receive majority of that tax dollars then. So February we'll have a positive here, and then it'll be spent down through. We get that next advance in July. Any questions on the financial report? All right. And then moving on to the next item, grant approvals. We have 3 grants for your consideration, 2 for the SCF. One is for wobbly chairs at Whitney, I think it was 4th grade, and then another one for $230. And then another one was for our balance bikes for the physical education classroom for $1,000. And then the last one is a council PTA grant for Mr. Brinkley's department for a high school makerspace 3D printer for $475. And then what's not on here will be on the next meeting, the February regular session is. You might have seen social media posts from the Rotary, but in partnership with the Rotary, the City Club, and the Strongsville Education Foundation, the Rotary has donated $2,400, which was matched by the City Club of $2,400, and the Strongsville Education of $575 to Unified Sports for the purchase of uniforms. So I believe Mrs. Dawn Thaw and Kevin Sapparo and Rachel Griffin kind of worked together on a grant and approach the Education Foundation, and then also the Rotary and City Club to for this contribution to give these kids brand new uniforms. They've been using old uniforms and hand-me-down, so as they compete. So I think correct me if I'm wrong, I think the uniforms are for the different types of sports that they participate in. So we'll have that on the February work session, or regular session. And the last item is the amended permanent appropriations for the year. The changes are in other grants for the 3 grants that I just mentioned. The capital 070 fund for the Kinsner HVAC project that was approved at the December meeting of $1.8 million. And then also, we had a state grant that we had appropriated for data network, a subsidy that we're no longer eligible for. So it's just removing that from the appropriations since we're not going to receive it. And that concludes my report if there's no further questions.
All right, thanks, George.
Thanks.
Dr. Ibo, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Hausum. A couple items under my section. The first is approval of a tuition student. So as you know, we have a board policy that says who can attend our school district. We do not allow for open enrollment. However, there is a tuition-based option that's there. And so what it says is if a student does not live within Strongsville School District boundaries and wants to attend, they may do so if they pay the annual tuition, which is set in the summertime by the Department of Education and Workforce. So we do have a student that's currently a Strongsville High School student. The family's moving out of the district next year, would like their child to graduate from Strongsville. So it's my recommendation that Haley be accepted as a tuition student at Strongsville High School for the 25-26 and 26-27 school year at the tuition rate to be determined by the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. The last sentence qualifies is Haley is applying to be a part of a Polaris program. If she gets accepted to the Polaris program, the tuition rate would be cut in half to 50%. Polaris has their own rate, their own board approval that they would have to go through that's separate than ours. So that just covers, if she's here full-time, she pays 100% of our rate. If not, she pays 50%, and the family, George and I have worked with the family. I've talked to Mr. Wingler, and we're more than happy to offer this opportunity through tuition for Haley to continue her education in Strongsville. It's a consent item, but we don't have these often, so I just want to make sure there's any questions. I'll answer them. Okay. The second item, being resolved upon my recommendation that the Board of Education enters into a 2-year agreement with the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio to implement county services as listed in the exhibit for the school years 25-26 and 26-27, beginning July 21st, 2025 through June 30th, 2027. So this is a standard agreement that says they offer these services. They get a certain amount of fees per student that is enrolled in our district. We get a percentage of that back, and that outlines how that works for the next 2 years. All right, with that, I'll ask Steve to come on up for the business services report. And as he's coming up, the first item that's under his agenda is a discussion item on administrative offices. So I will do the introduction, and Steve will take it from there. So the building that we are sitting in right now, which is the old Zellers Elementary School, is on the verge of needing critical repairs that are going to cost a significant amount of money, that it is my recommendation that it's no longer feasible to use this building as our administrative offices. So I've set the expectation for Steve that he's going to research a variety of options, and by early 2026 calendar year, not school year, we would start vacating this property and moving to a new home, wherever that new home may be. Steve's done an extensive amount of research. We've looked at a variety of things. And so there's two options that we want to discuss with you tonight. The first is, after we talk about what is the challenge with this property and why are we looking to leave, the two options would be the Rite Aid property that was just recently vacated through all the Rite Aid closings around the state. Steve's done some research. We visited that property. He'll give you kind of the lay of the land there. We've also done a look at what is available space to lease around the city. And so we've looked at we need at minimum 15,000 to 16,000 square feet. That would be tight, but we can make it work. And as you take a look at locations, properties, other tenants, there's been one property that we've looked at and Steve has visited, which is the Old DeReese property. And so those are the two options that we're going to talk about. So, Steve, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. So any questions? As Dr. Riba went through, we've been looking at this building. We've toured this building. We've made it open to the public to tour this building. There are sections of this building that the cracks in the structure are becoming more and more noticeable. Right now, I've done a roof assessment for the entire district. There's a critical needs list. This building itself, under thermal imaging, is completely saturated. There may even be some decking that is rusted out that needs to be replaced. The estimates that I've gotten to replace the roof here are $1.4 million. And I've done work with this company before, and the salesman quite blatantly said to me, I won't do any roof work until you can get these walls certified, because he's afraid with the walls being in condition that they are, if we start moving some heavy machinery on the roof, we start doing some serious deconstruction and demolition, that is going to be the tipping point sorry for the pun, on the walls themselves. So I'm also in the process of getting a structural engineer to come out and give an estimate from what they can see and what they can surmise from what's going on with the foundation. So that information will be forthcoming to add to that 1.4 million. In addition to that, because of the age of the building, our windows all need to be replaced. They're not even available any longer because they're so outdated. And some of them are actually starting to pop because of the nature of the walls. So, it's not giving us the best insulation to the elements and heating and cooling purposes. So all of that is being wrapped up into one bundle. And I believe the picture that's going to be painted from that is it's going to be pretty a substantial amount of money to stay in this building, which prompted us to start looking at other places for possible solutions. So,
And Stephen, just to interject before you go on, just for clarity, on the north wall of the building is separating itself from the building. So that is, just to speak plainly, it is moving away. The cracks are probably about an inch and a half wide now. There is a tilt to the room. Steve had a picture on his wall that has moved because of the building moving. So it's not, hey, we've got some cracks or there's some things we have to be concerned about. It is literally the outside wall is separating itself from the building, and that's the significance of the situation we're in.
I would like it noted it was also an Ohio State picture. So,
And can you refresh our memory, what
you're-
year was this building
Pardon me?
built? What year was this building built?
Ooh, I believe
Keep talking, I'll find
late
it.
50s, early
That's-
60s.
okay.
Somewhere around there. It's one of the older buildings that we
Right.
have. So as we've looked around the community, as Dr. Riba shared with you, two that we're looking into the possibilities of. The first one is the property on the corner of Pearl and Cook here, formerly Rite Aid. Went in there with the owners, and I've also contacted a local architect to start going through, and the property itself was built, I believe that was built in 2013. If not, I think that's when it was built, but it's not very old at all. I've walked through. We have all of the site plans. We have all of the environmental plans that were graciously given to us by the seller. So we're going through those. Right now, we're at a stage where I just want to go through and see if we could actually fit. So what we're in the process of working with the owner, if we're allowed to enter into an agreement, would be just to have a period of time where we could do inspections on the building itself, and then just see if we could fit all the operations that we have in this building, all the departments that we have in this building, various directors, coordinators, secretaries, clerks, all of those people. We have 37 people per my count that are stationed here. What we would like to be able to do is have some time just to see if we could even fit in there, not only just us, but also some conference rooms, some meeting rooms, and things of that nature. So that's where we're looking for some guidance on that. The other property that myself and Keith Simek, the maintenance foreman, and also Ryan Kilbane from Human Resources, and he was just taking a trip down memory lane. We went into the Doris building and looked at the second floor. So in comparison, you have the Rite Aid floor plan is a little over 14,000 feet. The Doris second floor is 33,000 square feet, somewhere in there. It just kept going and going and going and going in there. So for that, we're going to need, I'm getting PDF documents from the realtor to see what we would be able to fit there. I have no doubt that we could fit into that property. It's just, what would the lease agreement look like? There would need to be some reconfiguration that we have talked about on a very informal basis, because there are some needs. For example, right now you walk into the main entrance, and it's this way to the stairway, it's this way to the other companies. We would need something a bit more secure because of the nature of the business that we do, having students in and out, having the public in and out. And that's something that the realtor was talking to me, that they have talked, and again, not in any formal sense, because we're not there, but just in an informal, there are some things that we could negotiate into that lease to make it more practicable for a school district building. So that's where we're at right now. Everything is at a very informal stage. However, there is an agreement that is attached to the agenda. I'm not sure if you wish for me to go into that agreement at this point, or
Well, let's
if you
just
want
see
me
if
to
there's
pause.
any other conversations
Okay.
just on the discussion between the two properties before we go into the next agenda item.
Questions, comments?
The way I understand it, we won't owe any money to the Rite Aid people. We're kind of in a standstill, and they'll let us see. Is that kind of what the agreement says, or am I?
Correct. The agreement states that there's something called an inspection period, which is basically within a 90-day window of, we can do any inspections that we need to on the property. We can go into the property and look at whatever we need to. You know, that would include me talking with an architect to get a fit plan in place. So it gives us a period of time where we've just entered into an agreement to say we're interested. Please don't sell it out from underneath us while we're doing our due diligence.
Right.
And then if at any point during that time we find we don't fit, or it's just not a right fit for us, or we discover something that makes it not a right fit for us, we can then vacate that agreement by the dates outlined in it, and there's no harm, no foul, no money owed. If we go through the 90 days, or we decide at any point during those 90 days this is where we wish to be, then that where the agreement outlines what the amount of the earnest money would be, and then that there's a certain amount of time from the earnest money being received to a closing date for the property itself for us to claim ownership and pay for it. Sorry, I think we skipped ahead.
No, you're good.
I will also add one thing about if we do decide to go down the road of payment or purchase, where that the money would come from the 070 fund, but the way that the 070 fund was written, it was specifically for preschool, elementary, middle school, high school facilities, so we would need to look to redo the 070 fund, essentially pulling that resolution back and create a new one to allow the use of the funds for that purpose.
If we wanted to spend 070 funds
Correct, otherwise it'd be
from the general fund.
dollars.
Right.
Just wanted to bring that point of clarity.
And when would we put the $200,000 into earnest money?
The agreement outlines no later than April 17th.
Okay. But they would hold the property for us until then.
So to be clear, the way I read the document, and I want to verify it, $200,000 earnest money to in escrow.
Correct.
Gives us a 90-day window to do any or no investigations. And for any reason, we can say we're not interested prior to the 90-day expiration, at which point the $200,000 is returned to us from escrow.
No, we don't front any money during the inspection period, the 90 days. It's only after the 90 days that we would put down the $200,000 for escrow, and then we have a certain amount of time to close after that.
So it costs us nothing
Correct.
other than a signature to say we're going to look at it for 90 days.
Correct.
And for any reason or no reason, we can say we're not interested.
Correct.
At which point, the only thing the school district is out is whatever fees we spent with an architect or what have you
Correct, to create
to
the fit plan.
investigate the plan.
And for right now, the only fees that we would incur would be a fit plan. I don't feel comfortable moving forward, obviously, with any kind of build-out plans or anything like that, unless we're actually going to purchase. So the fit plan is nothing more than what's the square footage of what we want the offices to look like, and superimpose those over the blueprints of the current building.
You already indicated it's approximately 14,000 square feet.
Just a little over. It's just shy of 15.
And Cameron, you said we're somewhere between 14 and 16?
This current building is 33,000 square feet, but we believe we could fit in that space. That it's going to be close.
Yeah.
It's not close because of the office area. It's close because of a boardroom, a PD room, some overflow spaces. So that's really what we're
That's what
trying
we
to.
need to figure out.
Yeah.
Would you have board meetings there then, too?
That would be the ideal, right, is to have everything
Well, yeah.
still in one spot. So there's a spot where we think, if you're ever in that building, right to the left where the coolers, and it's like a little square.
The pharmacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going to look to put a boardroom. I mean, when we ballparked it, but the architect's going to go through that, yeah.
Correct, and if there was also a board meeting, so for example, how regular board meetings are attended, so we wouldn't need that large of a space, but if there is a board meeting that we need larger space, we always have at our disposal the high school auditorium, the middle school auditorium. They used to be held at the high school media center. We still have all those other spaces for a larger venue if we feel like there's issues or events that would necessitate a larger venue for the meeting itself.
Steve, I have a couple questions, kind of piggybacking off what Rich just asked. If we don't have to pay anything now, why do we have to approve this today?
So that they don't sell it out from underneath us while we're doing our due diligence. This just locks us into an agreement that they're going to hold moving forward with any other offers that they receive for 90 days. And basically, they're doing us a favor to let us look and see if we could fit for no cost whatsoever to the district while we do that.
And because the price of, if we go forward with it, exceeds what we can do on our own, the board needs to provide that guidance. Because we're, in essence, committing the board, committing
We
the
are committing
district
you.
with a fee if we continue forward with it.
So it also says that we have to close by April 17, 2025. So you
Correct.
back up 30 days usually from signing it to closing. So that only leaves us 6 weeks. Is that what you intended?
Yeah, I mean, so the timeline started on the 90 days when we started having these discussions. But I feel confident that I can meet that timeline so that we wouldn't be close to that. That's why I know I went a little bit at going ahead as much as I could. That's why I talked to an architect that we've worked with in the past for smaller projects. And we're already in the process of getting a fit plan in motion. So I'm confident that I can get this done in a timeline that does not jeopardize the district for any of the escrow amount nor a closing blind. And if it even gets close to that and I don't have the information, then my recommendation obviously would be we didn't have enough time and we can walk away. It's not the intent to commit the board to anything. I need to have the board's permission on this agreement to move forward even in a period where there's no money exchanging hands. Because at the end of it, there is potential money changing hands.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Steve on either property right now that we're looking at?
How much for the other property in leasing? I
Right
don't
now, it's
think I
listed at $5.50 per square foot.
Can we lease 20,000 square feet, or do we have to lease the entire floor?
So we looked at that yesterday, and the realtor's comments, and Ryan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't have to correct me if I'm right. So what basically they were saying is you could lease a partial part of the floor, but that all of the HVAC controls, everything is so integrated, you're going to be paying basically to heat the whole area. So there could be some conversations which make the extra area available to us at a very attractive rate. Would you say that's correct? Okay, thank you for agreeing with me. So yes, I mean, we could go in and say, well, we don't need all of this, we can split it up, but I don't think that'd be very feasible due to the fact that, yes, we are paying to heat and cool the whole thing. And, with the rate that we may be able to negotiate, I think it would be okay to have a little bit more space than we need, as long as we keep a lid on the junk that's collected in that other space. That's always the danger.
Well, the way I understood too, they have like a lot of the office furniture still in there, right?
That's correct. There's some furniture there. Some furniture is stacked up in other places. So it's a hodgepodge, and then there are cubicles that are still existing. We would just need to look at, some infrastructure. There were some issues with some condensation lines, so some things would need to be done. Again, the entrance would need to be looked at. So there are some issues that we would need to work out as the terms of the lease, but for the most part, it's move-in ready.
So what I would suggest makes sense is that we proceed on both fronts and then determine which one's the best offer. But there's a third front. I'm well aware of the deficiencies of this building, but I think we need to quantify better than just the roofer said, I won't go on the roof.
Yeah.
Right? So, because at a minimum, we need to quantify how much would it cost to repair whatever needs to be repaired with as much rigor as possible so that we know what we're comparing. Because the public is going to rightly ask, are we leaving this building for a legitimate purpose? I know we are, but I don't trust my own knowledge. And I'll expect Ryan to correct me if I'm wrong. But I think we need to, I would like, if the board agrees, I'd like to see 3 buckets. If this was my home, before I would just say we're going to buy another home, I would say, what's it going to cost to stay in the home I'm at? And then compare it to option 1, option 2, and then I think we can make an informed best decision.
I agree with you, and that's fully my intent. The only reason that this is highlighted for the Rite Aid property is for the reasons I stated before. I don't feel like I can move forward in any kind of agreement with them unless I get approval on this agreement. So it is my intent to pursue all 3, and at a later date that we decide, present that information to the board so that the best decision can be made.
Thank you for me.
The other thing, just for clarity, is when Steve brings that back, it will also include, because I think it's important for our neighbors and community of when we do vacate this property, what is going to happen to the building, what will happen to the property, what are the costs associated with that. So Steve will have that a part of his recommendation as well.
That's good.
So with that, we'll move to number 2, Steve.
Sorry, my tablet went down. The second one is the proposed purchase of property and building. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that Strongsville City Schools enters into a purchase agreement with Hannah Commercial Real Estate to purchase the property located at 147101 Pearl Road, Strongsville, Ohio 44136, not to exceed $3 million, and the agreement is attached.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stavcek, second by Mrs. Kilbane. Any other questions for Steve, George, or Cameron?
So if we can say out loud again for myself and the public, or mostly just myself, we are not, at this point, purchasing Rite Aid for $3 million.
That is correct.
We are simply agreeing that we have 90 days to determine if we want to purchase it. And if we do, they have to sell it to us.
Correct.
But if we, at any point in time, decide we don't want to buy it for any reason whatsoever, good or ungood, we can simply say, thank you very much, and the district and the taxpayers out nothing.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Ms. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes,
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
motion passes.
The next item is the Farrar Elementary HVAC Phase 2. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education accepts a proposal from Gardner for the multi-zone to RTU VAV conversion Phase 2 at Farrar Elementary not to exceed $859,597. Gardner is a preferred partner of Ohio Schools Council, and this is consortium pricing, and that quote and the scope of work is attached.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stavcek, second by Mrs. Kilbane. Can you tell us about Phase 2,
Sure.
Steve?
So this is the final completion. Phase 1 was 2 years ago. We put an HVAC unit, an upgrade on the front half of Sarar. This is doing the same, parodying that work on the back half of Sarar. That unit is also starting to show its age, wear and tear, and we're starting to have issues with maintenance of that unit. In addition to the scope of that work, we've had issues with pneumatic controls, which are controls that use compressed air to adjust heating and cooling. We're developing leaks in those controls. Last year, those leaks led to one of our air compressors. I don't want to be dramatic and say blowing up, but it fried because it was just it was working too hard trying to plug the leaks that it couldn't do that. So it was running unnecessarily and it burned up and we had to replace it. That's going to keep happening unless we replace these pneumatic controls. So those are also part of the scope, and that's the controls for the entire building. Both the front half, back half, and also the HVAC unit that controls the gymnasium over there. And lastly, when Gardner was going through and doing a final inspection, they recommended that the boilers are reaching the end of life, and we're seeing that as well. We're having to do more maintenance on the boilers. Those are boilers that are original with the building, so they have given us all that they can give. And with that, the pumps are also at the end of life. So this is a complete overhaul of the back half, picking up the boilers, the pneumatic controls, and after this, there should not be any other HVAC issues at Sarar. This will effectively replace all of those issues that we've been having because of the age of that building. Also, the design of this and the design build with Gardner, one of the features that I wanted to make sure that we had was, if there is a time that we are able to get a new building over there, these are units that, again, depending on the time frame of which that happens, we could literally pluck it off of the roof, put it onto a new roof, hook it up to a new ductwork, harvest most of the system here. Of course, the wiring and the ductwork would need to be redone, but we would be well ahead with an HVAC system on a building of that size, if not a little bit larger. So it's done with not only solving our issues today, but trying to work ahead to solve what may be in the future as well.
Questions for Steve?
Any concerns about getting the work done in a timely fashion?
No.
We don't want to start next school year.
No, I've been meeting with them, and if you'll recall from a former meeting that we had when this is the same company that's replacing the HVAC at Kinsner. That was a specific question I asked them: is are we going to have issues getting this unit here? They assured me they're not going to have any issues, and they have more than enough capacity to get Kinsner and Sarar done in the scope of the summer.
Can we watch when they have the crane and?
Dave can get a streaming camera going.
It's more fun in person. It's much better live.
Any other questions or comments?
Just make a comment, just like we did for the Kinsler. At the next regular meeting in February, if this is approved, I'll have it on the appropriation measure as an adjustment
Okay.
to appropriate for it.
And just one more comment, that won't delay. If this is approved by the board, I'll call my contacts at Gardner and have them start the process of reserving these units for us and getting those on whatever boat or whatever truck they need to be put on. So we don't have to wait until that for the work to start and getting prepped at the building.
Great. All right, George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stochek?
Yes.
Ms. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The last item are the gifts to the district. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the following gifts be approved. The Strongsville Optimist Club donated $2,000 designated to help students in need, with $500 going to Strongsville High School, $500 to Strongsville Middle School, and $200 to each elementary school. The Strongsville Community Theater donated $1,000 to be used for the Strongsville High School musical. The Strongsville Rotary Foundation donated $2,400 to the Unified Sports Program. And Tucker Neal donated 15 Nike uniforms to the Strongsville High School girls varsity basketball team with an estimated value of $1,500. I'll conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Next up for curriculum, we've got Director of Secondary Education, Nicole Hackman.
Good evening. I have 2 items for your consideration. The first is an out-of-state trip. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the permission be granted to the Strongsville High School boys and girls track and field teams to travel to Lexington, Kentucky to participate in the Tyson and Trinity Gay Invitational, April 4th through 5th, 2025. Transportation will be via chartered bus. Lodging and meals will be paid by participating students and the Strongsville Athletic Boosters. Our second item, more travel. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that permission be granted to Strongsville High School French teacher Alana Bendetta to travel with French students to France. The trip will take place June 17th through 26th, 2026. Expenses associated with the trip will be paid by participating students. If necessary, the trip may be postponed or the destination changed, depending on world events at the time.
Any questions for Nicole? Thanks, Nicole. We have nothing under student services, and so we'll bring Ryan up for the human resource report.
Good evening, everyone. I have the following items in human resources for your consideration. Item 1, abolishment, non-certificated. Item 2, resignations, non-certificated. Item 3, appointments, certificated. Item 4, appointments, certificated substitutes. Item 5, appointments, non-certificated substitutes. Item 6, appointments, certificated district substitutes. Item 7, appointments, game workers. Item 8, appointments, certificated athletic supplemental contracts. Item 9, appointments, non-certificated athletic supplemental contracts. Item 10, changes in hours, non-certificated. Item 11, change in status, non-certificated. Item 12, contract recommendations, non-certificated. Item 13, stipends, instructional coaches. Item 14, stipend, kindergarten early entrance screening. Item 15, leaves of absence, certificated. Item 16, leaves of absence, non-certificated. Item 17, unpaid leaves, certificated. Item 18, volunteer chaperone. And item 19, transportation supervisor and assistant transportation supervisor, bus driving utilization and pay rates, 2024 through 2025. That's it.
Any questions for Ryan?
No.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
There's nothing under technology for this month, so that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Next up, report on Polaris Career Center. Michelle?
Yes, we had our first meeting of the year last week in which the new superintendent of Polaris Career Center, Diane Zander, presided. It's a very busy time of the year, especially with leadership change mid-year, so the administration is heading off on a short 2-day retreat to plan for the rest of this year and get ready for next school year. Admissions enrollment is underway for the fall for our juniors and seniors. And there are lots of new programs in the works, which I'm really excited about. One of them is upcoming. You can be on the lookout for this. I imagine you'll see it in the middle school newsletter and perhaps in Cameron's newsletter to the whole district. It's a new program called Build Her that's designed for middle school female students to learn about construction trades. I'm really excited to see. I'm hoping to go over there and see what that's all about. So be on the lookout for that. And then summer camps will be available soon for registration. They're looking at some new adult programming, new internship programming for some of our in-house students in engineering and biomedical. So lots of good stuff happening. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has them. Otherwise, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Michelle? All right. Next up, a report on legislation. Mr. Niku?
So the report I wanted to give is just to highlight that we are at the point in time where the Columbus will be working on the state biennium budget. The governor starts the process by releasing his budget, and that is supposed to be released sometime next week, perhaps as early as Monday, and then it goes to the House, and then eventually the Senate, and then it circles around a bunch of times, and eventually by the deadline, they pass a new biennium budget, which will govern what's going on for the next 2 years. Candidly, the concern for us in Strongsville is that this would be the third pass at fully funding the fair funding formula. There is a lot of, the nicest way I'll put it, heartburn in Columbus over finishing the full funding of the fair funding formula, which basically means that we can look at advocating for Strongsville to maintain the funding that comes from Columbus. There'll be more to report on that as the different legislative and bodies start to do the work. But I'm glad that Michelle will be part of the legislative committee this year, because I do believe we're going to need to maintain communication and maintain advocacy for the district with both Representative Mike Davila and Senator Tom Patton to advocate for the best interests of Strongsville. It will end up being an issue for the taxpayer. Right now, I spoke with George earlier, the state provides Strongsville approximately $1,700 a year per student, about $9 million. There is, depending on who you talk to, there is discussion that that amount would be reduced. So more to come on that, but that is the main gist for perspective from school district. It also is politics time, and so Dr. Amy Acton has announced that she'll be running for governor of Ohio. Dave Yost has announced that he'll be running for governor of Ohio, and I'm sure there's more announcements to come. That concludes my report.
Thanks, Rich. Next, we have board liaison reports. City Council. You wanna do that one?
City Council met on Tuesday because of the holiday on Monday. It was really well attended by Mrs. Hausum and myself, representing the public. It was really cold, as I imagine everyone knows. The one thing I will report, Mr. Carbone is the school board liaison, as he pointed out during public comment today, and we're looking forward to working with him and the entire city council on our joint interests. And the one thing I will point out is the city council had a special meeting prior to discuss some potential change that AT&T was looking for. The short description is AT&T wanted to change that if they put in fiber in a city right-of-way, currently AT&T pays for that. They wanted to change the law that the city would pay for that. And so city council quickly called a special meeting to pass a resolution against that. A number of other cities in Ohio did the same, and AT&T removed the request from the PUCO. So that will be ultimately a good thing. It'd also be a nice thing to have fiber to my house, so we'll see how that works out. And that concludes my report.
The only thing I'd like to add is the previous meeting, Gordon Short was named president of City Council for this year, and Jim Carbone was president pro tem. So congratulations to those two gentlemen. Next, Strongsville Education Foundation.
They started their annual appeal, so if you get, I think they send it out in the mail. If you get anything, Strongsville Education Foundation really does support our kids with a ton of things. Their appeal wasn't going really well. It seems like the same people keep giving. So if you do receive anything from them, just take a look at it and, decide on your own. But they really do a lot for our kids. Half the scholarship money has been allocated. 8,700 of grants have been approved, $8,700. They also gave $575 for the uniforms, the unified sports, so the kids won't have just hand-me-downs, but they'll have brand new. And the Rotary and also the City Club donated. So I thank all of them because the kids will be really excited about that. And they also picked all of their new committee people. And I think for them, that concludes my report.
Great. Do you want to just keep rolling with
Yeah,
PTA Council?
Hold on, let me find my place. Okay. They'll meet next time, February 6th, for their regular meeting. This time we had the preschool principal talk at, and I'm sorry, I didn't write her whole name down, Sierra, what is it?
Vanderhoff.
Yes, she did the presentation. And then February 25th is the Founder's Day. From 6:30 to 7 is the reception. 7 o'clock starts the awards, and everyone needs to send their nominations to the secretary, who's ever involved in that. Their fundraising is the NEO Extreme Sports during Christmas break went really well. They have dances coming up. SMS Rocks is 5th and 6th. It's January 31st from 7 to 9. The Strongsville Middle School Rocks, the 7th and 8th, is February 7th from 7 to 9. They'll have DJs and pizza and Dairy Queen. And they also need parent volunteers, which they always need. Ticket sales are great for the 5th and 6th, but they're encouraging the 7th and 8th. They don't seem to like dances as much as the 5th and 6th graders do, so, and it's already passed, but if you got your tickets before January 20th, you got a discount. The DARE role models have been selected from the high school. They have an epilepsy walk at the mall, which I didn't write down the date, but I'm sure it's in our newsletter somewhere. Safety Town is in late March, and that'll be posted on the website. Volunteers from the middle school, you have to be going into the 7th grade to volunteer for that, and that's a big thing. Kids love it. And that starts in April, so just keep a watch out for that because it's kind of first come, first serve. And I think that, let me see if there's anything else. Oh, April 3rd is a sitters class, and it's for 11 to 13-year-olds. And April 17th, from 6:30 to 8:30 is ice skating. So they are, they're busy. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, Southwest General Hospital. We have not had any meetings as of yet. I think, if I remember correctly, that'll be in April, correct?
That will be in April.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, next, our board committee reports. Finance Committee.
We have selected a date for our next meeting, which would be March 5th, 2025 at 6:30 here in this room.
Perfect, thank you. Policy Committee.
We just had a meeting, so the next one will come later in the
In
spring.
spring, usually.
Sounds good. Facilities Committee, our next meeting is February 11th at 6:30 PM right here in this room. And Business Advisory Council Committee.
Our next meeting is February 7th at 7:30 a.m. in this room.
All right. Thank you. Next, we have the adoption of the consent calendar. Action by the Board of Education, adoption of consent calendar at this point of the agenda means that all items appearing in this agenda denoted as type-action consent, which items constitute the consent calendar, are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board or the superintendent requests that such items be removed from the consent calendar and voted upon separately. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Does anyone have anything that needs to be removed? All right, hearing none, George, can you take the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Motion passes. Dr. Ryba, back to you for timely information.
Before I share the slides, I just wanted to piggyback on something Mr. Miko said about the budget coming out. And so we've asked this a few times in the community, but we asked you to pay attention, and we'll probably send something out because we do believe in this budget cycle, once it's released, there's going to have to be advocacy from all of us in terms of how they're funding public schools. So Representative Mike DeVillo is the new representative. He came and we had a meeting with all the superintendents, treasurers that the districts he represents recently, and then we all know Senator Patton represents us. So one of the things that's happening is the state budget, the state finances are still fine, but they're not what they were. And so they're already starting with the narrative of we don't have as much money as we used to. This budget's going to be a little more challenging. I mean, if you read the news, obviously we have a new expanded voucher system for school choice, and that's already in the $1 billion mark that the state is putting towards those vouchers, which I'm not here to debate school choice. What I am here to say is that we should not make public education suffer in this state because of school choice. And one of the data points that just came out was that 96% of the students in Ohio that got the vouchers were students already enrolled in private or parochial schools. So the idea and concept that we are using state funds to provide kids in struggling school districts with greater options, with more school choice, is not what's occurring in the actuality of who is using the vouchers. It's kids that are already at private and parochial schools for whatever choice that is, and as long as that's a great choice for the family and for that student, we support that. But they're already starting to use the narrative, well, we're not going to have the money to fully fund the last 2 years of the Fair School Funding Program or plan that was put into place years ago. So once the budget's released, we'll have more specifics, and if that does come to be the case, then our legislators do listen to us, and they do respond based on the consistent feedback that they give. So I'm sure Mr. Merkel will have a lot of updates to that, but just wanted to share that in context of where we're at in the process. In terms of more local news, a couple of things we want to highlight across the district. First of all, at the elementary level, we want to give a shout out to Mrs. McNichol, who she's a music teacher at Sarar. So she's teaching students to sing, the solfege notes, the do, re, mi, fa, so, and learn what those notes mean, play rhythms, but she's turning that into students how to compose their own music. So they've practiced singing, practiced different rhythms, and now working on composing their own songs. So once they compose them, they're able to either play their songs with boom whackers. If you don't know what boom whackers are, they're... Yeah, right? Yeah, right. I don't know, other than they're boom whackers, right? You stretch them out and whack them together. I'm sure that gives you a lot more description as to what those are. Sing to the class, which would not be my first choice, but I'm sure the kids love it, or play them on a digital platform. So how wonderful is that? Getting to know not just, hey, we're going to sing some songs, but know what those notes mean, know what the rhythms mean, and be able to perform and have an authentic creation. That's just amazing. So we're thrilled to have Mrs. McNichol and her talents at Sarar Elementary. Going on to the middle school. So before winter break, they had the Cavs Academy go to the middle school to reward the 6th grade on all the hard work they're doing in ELA with new curriculum and testing and supports. So the kids participated in a basketball skills contest for prizes and battled some of their brave and willing teachers. So special thanks to the Cavs Academy and for our 6th graders and that great recognition and reward that they had before the holiday break. And finally, at the high school, we want to say congratulations to Ms. Kern's yearbook class for being awarded a variety of awards. And so one of the things, I don't know if you know this, I don't know if I shared this with you, but I never knew what Strohegan meant. It means Strongsville High School Annual. So a little fun fact. I can see the excitement on your faces that you're just this.
I think it was better with mystery.
Yeah, right? But that's what it means. It means. So, they've done it. This is her 2nd year, I think, or going into her 3rd year that she's taken over the yearbook. So it's a class. If you see the students that are on the yearbook, they're there late at night. She's there with them late at night. They're at all of the events, taking pictures, getting their stories. And if you haven't seen a copy of it, it's just a great publication. And she truly has taken it to the next level, and she was awarded a couple awards. So first class award from the National Scholastic Press Association, and a first place award from the American Scholastic Press Association for the second year in a row in recognition for last year's edition, It's a Vibe. And those two awards put Strongsville Strohegan in the top tier of yearbooks across the United States. So looking forward to what they're going to put together this year, but awesome job to the kids and Heather, who put in tons of hours to make that happen. And then finally, some upcoming dates. We've got the last round of parent-teacher conferences for this year. So we got pre-K to 5 on Thursday, February 20th. These are evening conferences, again, one-night evening conferences. And then Wednesday, February 26th for the secondary. Check out your principal's newsletters for how to sign up, things of that nature for those upcoming conferences. And then, although a couple months away, we're already in the midst of planning for our State of the Schools. We've got a new location. We're going to move to Strongsville High School. We're expanding the format we used last year to be truly a model Mustang experience. So Dan and Jenny and our DLT team, everybody's been working hard on putting it together. So more to come, but save the date for Wednesday the 26th at 6 p.m. It will be a very highly engaging opportunity to not just hear about what's going on in the schools, but get to experience what's going on in the schools. So we're excited to showcase all that's happening for our community. And that's it for timely information.
Great, thank you. Next, we have first reading of policies. They're all listed there on the agenda. If anyone has any questions, again, reach out to Michelle or Haley. And next, we have miscellaneous information from the board. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share?
The high school dance team is competing for states this weekend at Heath High School on Sunday. They made all of their groups, all 4 of their teams, their hip-hop, contemporary, lyrical, pom, and jazz, made it to states from the regionals that was hosted at Avon Lake High School 2 weeks ago, I believe it was.
Congratulations to them.
Under Mackenzie Grimm as their coach.
Yes.
I'd like to share something that was shared with Rich and I at the city council meeting, unless you wanted to.
I'm ready or you're ready, but
Okay.
you're already down the road, so keep driving.
Tom Clark, one of our councilmen who is very, very involved in the wrestling community here in Strongsville, pulled Rich and I aside to let us know that Vincent Kaz, a first grader from Kinsner, competed in the 2025 World of Wrestling Tulsa National Tournament. And Vinny placed first.
Wow.
Yes, first grade.
First grade.
Yes, he competed in the U6 boys 70-pound weight class, and he placed first.
Oh, my God.
Can we legally have him come to the next meeting and wrestle George?
Well,
He could wrestle my son.
I was gonna say,
together at
Jenny and I
practice.
didn't go that far, but we did think it would be really cool if, when we recognize the high school wrestlers, if we could bring Vinny to that meeting as well and recognize him. I think that would be really cool to do. But he does, and he has a teammate also who wrestles for Strongsville, who I believe placed 6th. Yes, yes. Yeah, Vinny not only placing but winning the championship at a national tournament brings honor and recognition to him, his family, our Strongsville Mustang wrestling team, and our Strongsville community. So congratulations to Vinny, and I look forward to meeting him someday
Yep.
soon.
Vinny also won states last year as well.
Well, that's what Tom said. His goal last year was states.
For
As a
his age group.
6-year-old, his goal as a 7-year-old was nationals. I'm like, oh my
He's
God,
gonna-
what's
What's
next?
he gonna do when he's 8?
I
He's
mean,
good. He's
he's gonna be sitting back at the retirement
He's
community
outstanding. We've been
reminiscing
watching him for
about
years.
For
Good
years,
for
he's
him.
6.
He's
Yeah.
been coming. He has an older brother. He's been coming.
Yeah, so again, big shout out to Vinny and congratulations to him and his teammates. Are there any other miscellaneous from the board? All right. Hearing none, meeting notifications. A regular Board of Education meeting work session will be held Thursday, February 13th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the meeting room of the admin building here at 18199 Cook Avenue. And after that, we have a regular Board of Education meeting to be held February 27th, 2025. We will start at 6:15 p.m. in executive session, followed by public session at approximately 7 p.m. in the meeting room here at 18199 Cook Avenue. Next, we do have a reason for executive session tonight.
To consider the employment of a public employee and to prepare for negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stavcek, second by Ms. Kilbane. Ready for the roll?
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Ms. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Great, motion passes. We do not see reason to come back and have any public business after executive session, so I want to wish everybody a good night.